Hey gang, I'm a well-known video game critic, you probably know me, and I have always lamented Nintendo's misuse of their most profitable character. I am of course speaking of the purple wonder, Waluigi. He always gets the tiny flaccid shaft of Miyamoto right up his bony decrepit rectum. But one day, very recently, I received a box in the mail with "From Nintendo" written on it. I opened it to see a rewritable disc with Waluigi written on it in Sharpie. It seemed like a legitimate game. How amazing that Nintendo would send it just to me with no press release. But the method of delivery as well as the disc were bizarre, but I didn't think much of it at the time. I go down into my basement past my Waluigi body pillow and jars of congealed rat blood, and sit down in front of my ancient television. I push the cobwebs aside and pull my Wii out of its sarcophagus. I push the bones off and jam the disc in it like I do my phallus into my old Xbox, despite neither fitting. I hear the disc crunching as I put it in, as it is considerably larger than the slot. Again, like my phallus, ladies. Immediately, my Wii begins oozing and spraying blood, as well as screeching in the foul tongue of the Dread Ones. I didn't think much of it at the time. So my Wii starts up, but all the little channel icons have been replaced with pictures of my mother's rotting corpse being molested by a man in a Waluigi suit. So I select the game and choose play. Immediately my chair begins to shake, and the Wii begins to rumble. I feel blood oozing out my eye sockets and dripping down my face. I thought little of it at the time. So the game begins with an unskippable cutscene. It appears to be a warehouse with only one small light illuminating a chair with an incredibly realistic Waluigi seated upon it. He has a face of severe discontent, and his eyes are shrouded in darkness. It's an eerie sight. There is no happy, colorful sights or music. The sounds of dripping water and swarming flies can be heard faintly in the background. After a few moments of heavy breathing, Waluigi undoes his overalls and lets out his tiny flaccid cock. He lays a copy of Mario Party on the floor and begins to furiously masturbate over it. You can see the veins rippling and the flesh tearing as he pounds away. I thought this was an odd way to begin a children's game. I didn't really see how this would appeal to kids, but who was I to question the wisdom and judgment of the gods at Nintendo? Anyway, Waluigi begins to ejaculate blood all over the game as he sits back down and begins to cry softly. The game then begins to play images of profound horror, the likes of which man was never meant to see. Though this was odd in hindsight, I thought little of it at the time. So, at this point, I was about 10 feet higher in my chair, having shit out several times my own body weight, in sheer terror. Realizing that I needed to go wash up, I tried to leave, but I could not. Some force was holding me back. Waluigi's face pops up on the screen to laugh and mock me. My TV then explodes and is pulled into a vortex of unimaginable force and size. I can hear one of the caged children whimpering in the corner of my basement. I keep them there to test their reaction to children's games. For aesthetic purposes, I make them wear nothing but diapers and vests. And I have sewn mushrooms into their infantile skulls. Only the strongest survive this process. Anyway, the words, "No escape," bleed out of my wall before I feel my rectum being sucked out of place. My now prolapsed rectum begins oozing a thick, purple substance that gets all over my Mario onesie. I pull the back flap open so it can hang out, but it's too late. The stains are there, and they are not coming out. My rectum uncoils and flops to the floor like a dead snake. The force then releases me, and I drag it up the stairs, hitting the Toad Child on my way out. I wash myself and return to find my basement has simply become a mass of tentacles and horror. Writhing about uncontrollably, I slam the door shut and sit down at my desk in order to write my review. Anyway, overall I give it a 6 out of 10. I didn't really get the appeal, but I'm sure collectors will like it. I just wish my eyes would stop bleeding.